لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. When the last part of Surah Al-Baqarah was revealed, آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. The part that sometimes we not focus so much on is something that Mufassirin have really highlighted, that is at the core of our belief, but that makes the difference between us and the Sahaba of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Especially, as we know, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. And when you look at that part, what does it mean? وَقَالُوا سَمِعْنَا وَطَعَنَا. We hear and we obey. They didn't say فهمنا, we understood. Yani, we hear and we obey. Okay? When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he went to the famous journey, Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, and when he returned back and he explained to the people what happened and what he did, actually, many of the people around him who believed, supposedly, they apostated. They left Islam. Why? Because to them it made no sense. How can he claim that he went in one night, سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى. One night. What? It takes a month, man. The Arabs were very used to this journey to Asham or to Yemen. And they knew exactly, I mean, this has been going on for generations. It makes no rational sense. So many of them apostated. And many of them couldn't wait. Some of the kuffar of Quraysh, they couldn't wait to spread this, like they thought that's it, it's a ridicule. And of course they went to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anh, and they said, your prophet says that he went in this one night, and he said, I believe that Allah reveals to him from above the 7 heavens. Of course I believe. He didn't say, well, you know, because according to the speed of light, the buraq, okay, yani, in some of the hadith they said that he would put his leg wherever he could see, like the horizon. You know, the speed of light and this, and we can make some calculations in physics and write yani, a little pamphlet about it, and we can maybe have some explanation where some people are like, okay, I think it makes sense, okay? It's not the way the Sahabas worked, radiallahu anhum ajma'in. But they understood this principle. وَقَالُوا سَمِعْنَا وَطَعَنَا. If we understand and we look at the condition of our ummah today, including ourselves, like this is something that we need to introspect and look at ourselves, that sometimes it is difficult to understand certain things when we hear a hadith or an ayah, and some people find some resistance. Now this has been happening recently more as our iman is decreasing and our logic is increasing. You find more people within the ummah, within the da'wah, having to always rationalize and logically explain and find some simile or some explanation. Well, it's just like this. If you take a car and you put it here, then that car can be, and you know, you can. It's like that, and right, makes sense, right? Yeah, okay, makes sense. So we are always now trying to find some logical explanation, and logic is a man-made science. Falsafa, some philosophy, to explain to people so that we can make sense to them, so they can stay in the deen and not be somehow, pushed away from the deen. And when you find the enemies of Islam, when they try to attack Islam, they always try to ridicule some aspect of Islam. They're not going to come to and explain to you like, my way, my religion, my philosophy is much better because of 1, 2, 3, 4. And they will just tell, Muhammad Sallallahu he did this and Islam says that, and he's trying to always attack. And I'm always like, and what's good in your way? Like, can you tell me something about, like, why should I come to you? Oh, Jesus died for sins or something like that, right? And you're like, what? So, but we're faced with this difficulty because as human beings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us upon the fitrah. And the fitrah is like the natural disposition that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created human beings upon. Every human being is wired to believe that there is a higher, a creator, whatever, power, people call it, all kinds of things. It's in us to have that. Okay, this is the fitrah. And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that says that every person was born upon fitrah. And if you look at the wording, and then his parents condition him to become a Christian or Jew or a Majusi. Yani, these three categories, it's not just these three, but it means that they change. Okay, if you want to look at the hadith or interpret it, or we can look at the zahir, just the meaning, but basically means that their parents, i.e. those around them, i.e. their environment will change them. So they're born in a state of purity, and then they start changing slowly through a process of conditioning, of learning. For example, the Trinity cannot be something that's in the fitrah. You have to be conditioned and explained. And if you look at the early church fathers and Christian philosophers, how much they wrote to try to explain this thing, right? And it's still very confusing even for them. So in the end, they have to say, well, you just have to believe, right? But then why did you even waste all that breath, right? You don't have to do that for Tawheed. Of course, the ulama have explained how to understand why it's importance and the different Tawheed, the Asma wa Sifat, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, al-Uluhiyyah, and so on. I was in Romania and I wanted to test the gypsies. I know the gypsies don't go to school. So I was on the street and some gypsies came to me, young kids, and I talked to them and I said, how many gods are there? And the guy's like, 1. I was like, 3. He's like, 1. He's like, 1, only 1. I said, yeah. I said, what about the Father, Son, Holy Ghost? He's like, huh? Because they're not educated. They don't know. But they know how to cross themselves because they see people, right? But when you ask them, their fitrah will speak. They say, of course, only 1. Of course, only 1. If you talk to them and you ask, well, who's Jesus? They might have heard, oh, Son of God. And I'm like the Son of God? They're like, well, it's just the name. Or that's what they say. They'll say, oh, the Father says that. Or something. But they don't, it's not in their fitrah to believe that. You understand? So, when we look at the process of condition, this is something we all go through. Okay, you are in America, there's a certain culture in the country, and we all get affected by it. We all change. We will change opinions. We will change approaches. This is something that we have to be aware of. For example, and please don't get me wrong here, but a lot of people, when they want to cite differences of opinion and change his differences, they will cite Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah when he went to Egypt. Oh, he changed his opinions. And I'm like, okay, but that's an indication of why did he change his opinions? Well, because he met some new circumstances. Doesn't mean that now because he changed his opinions when he went to Egypt, that now all of a sudden let's just change opinions. But people always cite this event and they don't think about it. Well, why did Imam Shafi'i change his opinions? Well, because he encountered a new environment and there were certain circumstances that he made him think now and evaluate his opinions and make ijtihad. Of course, he was making ijtihad. But you find people try to say, well, you know, there's all these opinions, so therefore we can just take whatever opinion. And you can change your opinion and it's okay. And we're just kind of like up and down. That's not what it is. You can take a great lesson from a lot of these, the life of the ulama and how they've gone to their process of ijtihad to understand how environment will affect us. How environment affects fatawas. For example, if you look at the fatawas of Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, at the time of the Mongols, how he dealt, for example, with the Shia and what was happening. Why was he so strict? There were certain things that it was happening and what the Shia were doing. Right? There were certain things that the Christians were doing, even at that time. The Mongols are attacking from one side, the Crusaders from another side, and the Shia are betraying the Muslims from the middle. Right? And people say, oh, he's such an extremist, he just wants to... You got to understand what he was dealing with, what the circumstance, and why his fatwas were very strict at certain things, very, very harsh. Right? So, the environment does matter. Now, for us as Muslims here in North America, of course, this will also cause issues for us because it is much easier for you to adapt to a certain environment than for the environment to adapt to your opinion. Okay, why? Because it is overwhelming, the majority. When the Prophet ﷺ told us the hadith about the steel worker or the blacksmith and the atar maker, right? Depending on where you are, where you spend the time, that thing is gonna come onto you because it's overpowering, right? You go somewhere where there's a lot of pressure, it's going to rub onto you. This is how it is. So you have to select your environment and what you are surrounded by. Now, to today's context, we find that for those who have been involved in the dawah in the last, let's say, 20 years. I became Muslim 20 years ago, and it was right after 9/11. And at that time, to be honest, obviously I didn't really know anything, but I was very impressed because the Muslims, they were not apologetic, you know? They were very, very like, this is Islam, right? And you had like the, mashallah, the older, you know, mashayikh, they were very like, okay. But then 9/11 happened, and then slowly there was a push from the environment for a reform. So now the awam, the kind of layman, just the regular people, you started seeing fear, and you know, Muhammad became Mo, and Ibrahim, Abe, and so on. Names changed, right? Beards got shaved and whatnot, because there was a pressure in the environment. And not that only that we felt ashamed to be Muslims and we were scared and we were apologetic for what was happening, even though I think there's been so many commissions that have been investigated that event and has been exposed, and not even from us. I don't even think we participated in that exposition. It was the non-Muslims committee, so many, right? But the changes started happening, and I was noticing the changes started happening within now the opinions and the dawah. And the overwhelming majority of the people, the awam, were pushing for lighter opinions, for more integration, for more assimilation, and also for like apologies and for you know, a lot of apologetics, and no, it's not like that really, you have to understand these people are not Muslim, right? We started like making takfir on many people, right? And so on and so forth. Okay, whatever, that's not the point. But who are you? You're just like Ahmed, you know? Average Ahmed is making takfir on people. Like, wait a second, let the ulama discuss these issues. But everyone was like, no, 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 you know, these are not real Muslims. Dude, who are you? Like, right? So, but the event, the changes are what I want you to focus on. Because the opinions were getting slowly watered down. If you were present at that time and you were observing and learning, you're saying like, wait a second, I thought that we're here. And then within a year, we're like, oh, we're here. No, 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 it's not like that, guys. Come on, let's be a bit nicer, right? And I remember that within like 5 years from that period, when I started studying, there was a time in which there's a lot of these interfaith dialogues happening, and and I'm talking about like debates, not like Ahmadiyyat, rahimahullah style, okay, or Dr. Zakir Naik, Allah Hafadh. But I'm talking about like, you know, I explain to you, explain to me, let's hug, shake hands and whatnot. All right. But I remember that this occurrence was taking place where the non-Muslims were saying something like, oh, we're so similar. It's like almost everything is the same. We have so many things in common. I'm so happy. Why should I even become Muslim then? Like, we're so similar almost, you know? Because there was this whole like, yeah, we're so similar. Everything is the same. Don't worry. We have all the same prophets. Everything's the same. We're just... And that ghurba, or that strangeness that belonged to the Muslims at one point, even after 9/11, there was no, I remember, I wanted the Quran because I was not Muslim yet. There was no Quran, you cannot find it. Do you know how many people, including myself, came to Islam after 9/11? From astaghfirullah, we don't condone killing of innocent people and all that. But just that event and that push got people to look in Islam. Like now what's happening in Palestine is getting people to look into Islam and to convert to Islam. But those people are saying, these Muslims, these strange people, I want to know why they're so different. Why don't they just want to be like us and reform? What's different about them? Why are they wearing these clothes and these beards and they claim that Jesus is a prophet and is Muslim, and I want to know. Why are there these one's white, one's black, one's Spanish, one's this, one's that, all together still, you know? What's going on with them? So there was this difference that attracted people to Islam, at least their curiosity. Right now, a lot of people say, yeah, you guys are good people, nice people, but I don't really want to come to Islam because we're so, you know, guys are so similar, almost, I mean. So, these changes that took place over the last 20 years, the opinions changing, people changing, and subhanAllah, because some of these opinions, wallahi, if you take some of these speakers today and their opinions and you put them like verses, like let's have a round, versus like themselves like 10 years ago, you find like they're fighting each other, right? They're polar opposites, man. Now, of course, a person might have a mas'ala that he changes his ijtihad on based on certain things. Okay, tayyib. But you're talking about like polar opposite opinions. A person following the sunnah, qala Allah, qala Rasul. And now it's like, well, we have to understand that the mind and this and that, and the philosophers said, and you know, Descartes and Kant, and quoting, you know, all kinds of, and you're just like, you're sitting there scratching your head and asking yourself, like, what happened? Why did we change? Why have we become so correct, so politically correct? Why is it that we have moved towards this other extreme and caused this confusion? And in reality, it is because we have placed a greater importance on satisfying the environment that is feeding us and that is around us, as opposed to obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And actually, we are not ready to sacrifice our environment, our lives, our well-being, and all that for the truth. We will adapt and change and find opinions that will be suitable and not upset people out of fear that they might not like us. And we have kind of left that sami'na wa ta'ana that the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ used to have. And even if you look at how many of the da'is today, they keep it real and they are not willing to budge in, you can really, it's tough, especially in the Western context. You can find a few people amongst the popular ones. I know that there's mashallah a lot of good alims, but they prefer to stay a bit back. But for the ones who are in the front, you find that now it's become a chase of followers and opinions that everyone's okay with, and being invited to different places where they can address a big audience that is non-Muslim. Muslims stand ovation, applauding by the non-Muslims and all that. Look, we don't have an issue with the non-Muslims, man. We want them to be guided to Islam. But we're not going to twist our deen so that they can be happy with certain things. And we have shifted our paradigm from Quran and Sunnah to a new paradigm that fits the culture. We live in an academic culture. There's a lot of information. Everything needs to be explained. There's an algorithm for everything. And if you find that even our fatawas and our opinions now are somehow reflecting that. Okay? It's not back to that organic way that the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ used to have, but it is, to some people have actually called it American Islam. And they believe that they are mujtahid, mujaddid, who's bringing in new opinions that are very, very important, and this is satisfying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a problem. It is a very dangerous problem, because now the people who are following the Sunnah, are not, forget about the non-Muslim ostracizing them. That's okay. If they find that we are strange, alhamdulillah. Fatuba lil ghuraba. The Prophet ﷺ told us. The problem is that the Muslims themselves, our own brothers and sisters now, people in your own family, are looking at you and be like, you're strange. What's wrong with you? Why are you being so strict? Why are you being so extreme? What's extreme about trying to follow as much as we can? فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet ﷺ. What's so extreme about? Oh, but you know, people are going to be upset. Well, that's not how it works. So we're faced with this new paradigm that is based upon academic endeavors and academic discourse that is always rationalized and philosophized and fancy, very, very fancy words, where the people are sitting there like, it must be true because it's very fancy. And a person is able to quote all this and a wide variety of opinions, but never the right opinion. And the people are like, wow, 15 opinions. I wonder which one will suit me. And human beings, you have to understand that we are inclined towards whatever is, suits me. This is how it is. That's how, subhanAllah, this is the fitna that, we have on us. And to try to follow as authentic as possible, this is a challenge. It's a challenge that a person has to push themselves to learn, to admit their faults and mistakes and try their best to follow that correctness and have really strong sincerity. And that is difficult to do. So we have a paradigm, and this paradigm dictates how we interpret the Quran and Sunnah. And this is very, very problematic and very dangerous for a person who believes in sami'na wa ta'ana. Okay, when a person hears something from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, It should be. We should try, when it's authentic, and it's correct, that we should try our best to follow it. And if we cannot, at least we shouldn't say, I think we can, okay, I'm not so good, okay, but this is the truth. Maybe I'm not there. Yeah, you're right, man. I got some issues. Allah forgive me, but brother, there's this, you have to use your mind, to discover Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, iktishaf, You have to, taktashif. You discover, you go, you research everything. You're proud of the non-Muslim academic endeavors, and you are ashamed of the Muslim things. So why? Because you've gone through a process of conditioning. All of us have gone through it. Anyone who's gone through primary school, middle school, high school, university, we've all had to go through it. We have to admit it. And this is the first step. Hey, I've gone through about 10, 15 years of a certain system. Okay. It has changed my paradigm of thinking. Now I need to understand that, and I need to try to readjust my paradigm of thinking. That when I hear a hadith, the waswas in my mind is going to tell me, is this really correct? Is this really, is this ayah really mean that? And of course, not to mention, mashallah, there's so much help for shaitan from TikTok and Instagram. You have all these, mashallah, very well-studied sheikhas, mashallah, Allahumma barik, right? Giving fatawas and, helping these opinions, right, with 500,000 followers, 1 million followers, right? And now it's become like from, the studies of hadith and the principles of hadith are not existent to them. And it's become almost like, instead of the musnad of Imam Mahdi, it becomes the musnad of whether I find it, if I like it or not, I don't. Do you think the Prophet ﷺ would say something like that? Some people say, I don't think he would say something like that. It doesn't make sense to me. Therefore, the hadith is not authentic. Right? But the one that's not authentic, the Prophet ﷺ, there used to be garbage at his front door and he used to pick it up and now get it. This is authentic now. Right? This is the correct one. Why? Because it feels very nice. So this is not the way Islam works. It is not about the feelings. Mustalah al-Hadith doesn't go based on the feelings of people. Yeah, this one sounds nice. It is authentic. This one doesn't sound too good. It's not authentic. This is what a lot of people are doing. Right? Invalidating opinions of ulama for 1,000 years, 1,400 years. Say, well, there's this one guy, he really got it right now. He understands it. Versus thousands of ulama. Because why? Because it fits the paradigm that surrounds us. And no one's going to get upset. Okay? I leave you with this and reminder to myself, because all of us are susceptible to this. For me, as I came into Islam as a new Muslim, I really had a hard time because I had to erase all the conditioning, and still it affects me. Wallah, still sometimes in my mind, like, man, I feel it. Things come back from the past. What I've gone through, the education that I've gone through, the system that I've gone through. And you have to catch yourself. And say, A'udhu billah, wait a second. Let's come back to earth. Okay? You have to catch yourself. Because the pressure that is around you on the environment will change us. But as a believer, you have to stand your ground. There was a time in the Muslim Ummah where we almost lost the aqidah and understanding of the Quran. And there was one Imam who stood strong. And this was Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He literally got down to one person. I'm not going to name, but a lot of quite great ulama, they For whatever reason, they made their own ijtihad and they agreed with the environment, with the Khalifa and what was there. And some really big names. Imam Ahmad said, no. No. I'm not going to do that. He was beaten. He was jailed. They brought scholars to debate him. Everything. No one could change his mind. And as he was being paraded through the market one time and beaten, he felt someone walking next to him. And he was a criminal. And he said, "Ya Imam, I've been whipped and beaten and punished so many times, 90 times or something," he said. And still it didn't make me stop from this, yeah? From what I'm doing. He said, don't let this beating stop you from following the truth. Okay? So, don't let what happens around us change us. We will be pushed. It will be challenging. We will make mistakes. I'm the first one. But always remember to not change the paradigm. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe you admit you're wrong. But don't change and justify your wrongness to change the deen. If you are wrong, look at this criminal. He said, I'm wrong, I'm criminal. Admit that you're a criminal. It's better you admit that you're a criminal than to try to change the deen and to find some wicked, twisted philosophy to explain it to people so that they're happy, and then you find that, well, it feels nice, therefore it must be right. This is not how Islam works. But we do find that this is kind of what's happening these days around us. And it is very confusing because sometimes you doubt yourself. You're in a position of weakness. And you have to continue to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect you, because you cannot by yourself protect you. مَن يَهْدِهِ اللَّهُ فَلَا مُضِلَّ لَهُ وَمَن يُضْلِلْ فَلَا هَادِيَ لَهُ. Whoever Allah guides, there's no one who can misguide him. And whoever is misguided, no one can guide. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inna Allah yahdi man yasha, it is really Allah guides whom He wills. How, what, this, oh Allah, no. Allah guides whom He wills. Bas. Okay? We just hope that we are from the muhtadeen, from those who are guided. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who say sami'ana wa ta'ana. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us from those who are from the muhtadeen, from those who are guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We pray and we say, رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا وَهَبْ لَنَا مِن لَدُنْكَ رَحْمَةً إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْوَهَّابُ. O Allah, do not let us go astray after you have guided us. Ameen. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وجزاكم الله خير وبارك الله فيكم وأحسن الله إليكم. I don't know if there's any questions or what's the program? Okay. No questions? Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair. Barakallah. I think there's food, yeah? Sir?